Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is Ship Updates Now. We start off this week with the Javelin. Now, we found out a little bit about the Javelin on RTV and ATV. Now, one of the big things that kind of came up this week, and they were talking about it a bit on ATV and then talking about it on the forums, was that the Javelin that you see planet side on, I believe the planet is called Lear in the CitizenCon demo and whatnot, it was produced from the quote-unquote final Javelin asset. So, of course the forums were all over this and saying, well, if the ship's done, then why can't we see it? Now we found out later on RTV that there are still a couple of rooms on the non-wrecked actual flying version of the Javelin that need a little bit of work before it's done, and that ultimately in the end it's up to Chris Roberts as to when we're going to see the final version of the Javelin. But the Javelin actually plays into the next story, which is if you look at the Javelin here and you look at these turrets here, all these turrets on the Javelin, I had always assumed that they were size 7s, but in fact they are size 5 unmanned turrets apparently. So that goes back to the video I made last week where I was saying that turret on the Polaris, this one right here, looks a little bit undersized. But if you look at this turret closely, it's got that glass cockpit on it, which kind of makes it look like a manned turret. So what I think actually happened here is that the unmanned turret on the Polaris was, they just kind of maybe ran out of time. They said, okay, just reuse one of the manned turrets and just stick it in there so we can render this and get it out there. Chances are that is actually a very undersized turret, and that the Polaris's unmanned turret, especially the one underneath the cockpit, may in fact be much more substantial than the original production images were leading us to believe. Because if the Javelin's size, if the Javelin's turrets are size 5s, and those are size 5 unmanned turrets, then the size 5 unmanned turret on the Polaris must be a heck of a lot bigger and probably a heck of a lot more effective than what it looks like it has in this picture here. But we also did see some other artwork to do with the Polaris in ATV on Thursday. Now, when I'm looking at these images and seeing, kind of like where they're kind of messing around with the 3D model here, I think that these are kind of pre-production images, and so this source material isn't the ship in full production, but this is kind of the source material for the concept art and not the final ship model. So it does not look like the Polaris is in fact in production now, unless they announced it and I somehow missed it. It doesn't look like the ship is in actual production now, but we'll see what happens in the near future with that ship. Now, interestingly enough, there is one other story. Now, you may not remember this ship. In fact, I was starting to wonder if CIG even remembered it. The Prowler, the Asperia Prowler, which is the stealth boarding ship. Now, this ship was originally, voted in by the community and announced that it was going to go out for concept on November 6, 2014. Strangely enough, it was the same post where the never to be seen again swastika herald made an appearance. But so it turns out, Ben was being asked about the Prowler again, but we didn't really get any real information on the Prowler except that they're working on it. But he did let it slip that there are about 7 or 8 ships going out for concept and are in the pipeline for next year. 7 or 8 new ship concepts for next year. Wow, that's a lot of stuff, and apparently a lot of these are player requests. So who knows what could be in there, but obviously that's going to be kind of a polarizing topic because there's a lot of people who kind of think, okay, why don't we just worry about finishing the ships that we've already got? And then there's going to be other people who are like, no, I want to see another different type of ship. So I think that tug of war is always going to be going on for a long time yet. And I mean, obviously for new players coming in, they want a chance at something LTI, so I think that, yeah, these concept sales are not going away anytime soon. And finally, this week, the last little updates that we got, of course, Cutlass Black in production. We already knew that. That is, of course, the remodel of the existing ship model. That is in Josh Kuhn's hands, who recently did the Herald, which hopefully, fingers crossed, we will have flying in our hands very, very soon with 2.6. Also, the 300 series is going to be getting its remodel soon. TM. When? No. We don't know that. And when asked, they'd shown the whole ship pipeline at CitizenCon, and someone had the audacity to ask, well, okay, where's the Redeemer? And the answer was, it's in there. Where? Anyways, that has been the show for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.